Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question we're picking up from the last video, and that was really to dive into understand how to deal with a psychopathic individual at the workplace. We have a number of viewers who have recently made statements that they have psychopathic supervisors who are really creating a lot of tension in their workplace, where they're very ruthless. They're creating a very distracting work environment, and these people, they don't have any empathy. So they're really acting, but then they've got other individuals who are coalescing and acquiescing to the power of this individual, and they're stating they have this psychopathic gaze. And how do you really extract yourself and stop really, number one is to stop absorbing this individual's energy. And this can go for people not only who have encountered this type of individual at the workplace, but also if you have lived or, been in relationships with these individuals. It's very important for you to distinguish your energy from their energy. You have your own energy, which is your own emotions, thoughts, behaviors, mindset as distinct and separate from this individual. But when you are often in a relationship with an emotionally manipulative individual, such as a psychopath, a malignant narcissist, a covert narcissist, you tend to find that you are directing a lot of energy to them, i.e. you're opening up the floodgates of your energy to receiving them and satisfying and pacifying their needs because of their personality construct to try to control others. They have a propensity or a drive to want to control others, manipulate others emotionally, pulling them off of their own natural, organic, life purpose direction. In other words, people can really do a complete beeline off of their life purpose and being absorbed and traumatized by these individuals. So you no longer have emotional footing, emotional focus, and positive self-beliefs, and instead they're very compromised, they're very shut down, they're very depersonalized and dehumanized within that individual. And when this is at the workplace, it becomes very difficult to function. Likewise, when you're living with these types of people, it does not matter the environment. They have a propensity to create a very feeling of being small or really having to think about this person all the time. That's how they break you down, is so that you can't kind of live your life independently, autonomously, with what makes you feel good. There's always that kind of nagging fear, paranoia, or just feeling that there's this quote-unquote individual who's superior authority to you, who's nagging and pulling you off of your focus, off of your game, off of your full feel-good, which is natural and organic to you. Instead, that whole pattern is disrupted. And so how do you really deal with this at the workplace? So we're picking up in the last video, and I apologize, we had run out of tape. So we're zooming back in and understanding one of the greatest tools that you can have not only is no contact, but we're going to explain how to do that in the workplace. So, or if you're living with this individual, a lot of people call it the gray rock method. I call it the clear rock method. It's just kind of a concept I came up with because you don't want to be just gray. You want to be clear. You want to be lucid. You want to be sharp. You want to be keen. You want to be transparent and open and honest with yourself versus living in fear, intimidation, and doubt, which oftentimes is engendered when you're with this person because they're throwing you off of your ability to think clearly. Your natural thinking patterns are disrupted. You can develop very easily a thought disorder while working or living with this individual. So I would adopt what is called the clear rock method and going no contact, even if you're in, proximity to them, i.e. adopting a very neutral and indifferent state, knowing that you cannot take this personally. This is how this person is, but distinguishing and separating, defining your energy, your own emotions as distinct and separate from this individual. So they will act to not allow you to believe that your space is your own. So they very much want to conquer that. It's all about the win for them. And they, lacking empathy, they do not have an ability, literally, energetically, to connect with you at all. There is no bonding. They do not have that ability when you're dealing with a true corporate psychopath. They will put on the shell or the persona or the show of a specific type of individual who is learned, who is an authoritarian, and they can very much switch the mask to become something very different in other settings. And it can be very, very scary when you see this transformation where they become from one to another. They truly metamorphosize. Like if you've ever seen, a species of prey or like a salamander, the really spellbinding salamanders that, change their color of their body. There's color changing salamanders and also texture changing salamanders that can change the texture of their skin depending on if they're around a lot of rocks. They can make it very bumpy so that they blend in with the terrain. They can change colors. It's really magnificent. You can watch videos of that sort of animal on Netflix. They have like a whole series of like wild in Africa, and they'll talk about a lot of the predatory beasts like your lions and, just how they attack and how, the defenses of nature have them blend in. But the psychopath will very much metamorphosize like the color changing salamander. They can change countenance. They can change the way that they look. Their energy about their body changes. When they turn off, the good charm, they become very cold, very much like out of this world cold. They become really like you feel like you're in the presence of a criminal. I mean, that's really just an easy way to describe it. It's very difficult to put words to it because I don't know many words in the English language that can really explain this. It's very, very profound, cold. I think evil would probably be another good way to describe it, although evil can mean so many things. You just know it is not a positive feeling. So it can be very difficult to try to resist this on a day-to-day basis. It becomes very taxing. It takes a lot of your energy. It creates a lot of stress, which is destructive to you. When they say stress kills, it literally does. It kills your brain cells. It kills your thought pattern. Literally dying off those cells, which you need, your brain cells for thought process, your cognitions, your body, on a regenerative basis. So going no contact with them in the proximity means basically you adopt a feeling of indifference, i.e. not reactivity, not saying yes, not saying, oh my God, every time they do something, keeping a shut lip, a tight lip, not reacting, not responding. And as we're saying in the previous video, not giving them eye contact. Do not look them in the eyes if they have a psychopathic gaze. They might tend to always look at your mouth or do strange, odd behaviors that they do. Do not look them at the eyes, even if you have a meeting. Look at their forehead, look at the top of their ear, look behind their ear, look up. Do not give them eye contact, and do not react and respond to everything that they say. Adopt a body language which is, tilted away from them, if you will, so that you're allowing their energy to bypass you. In other words, yield to the good, allow the evil to bypass you. So adopt a little bit different stance. Keep your feet wide apart so that you have kind of like a power stance about you. And do not put the hands on the holders, like you're judging. Keep your solar plexus just sort of guarded. You can put your hands around your solar plexus, out in front of you. You can hold a notebook for a shield for yourself. Do things like that to sort of create a sense of boundary and protection. And they'll become very well aware. A psychopath will scope out the individuals that they can target. They know who's vulnerable. They know who that they can get away what with. So you really need to, shield and armor yourself, not muscularly, but, having a notebook, having something hanging up, put in something positive. If you have some pictures, put a smiley face, something that makes you feel good and makes you feel empowered. We talk about going and getting a healing gift. You can put something like even a candle, not that you have to light it at the workplace, but something that gives you that holy focus, to know that good is with you. And And also, asking for your desk to be moved, out of the proximity, not playing the game when they're trying to sabotage you or say things that are trying to pit one against another or create a lot of undue distraction. So do not give in to the distraction. Remind yourself of your focus and keep your focus, and that's all that matters. If you're finding it very difficult, well, then that's a sign to you that you're allowing yourself to absorb their energy. So you have to become very well aware of what is your energy and what is theirs. Realize that you can't take it personally, and begin also to adopt a sense of very, I would say, transparent, or the role of metacognition or mindfulness about your work. In other words, metacognition is the ability of the human mind to think what you're thinking about. So if we were to demonstrate that now, my metacognition would tell me, I'm very comfortable speaking about this topic. I'm glad, that a viewer has asked a very specific question. We're addressing this in depth. I feel confident. I feel comfortable. I enjoy the temperature. So this is my role of metacognition. So I'm kind of like checking in with myself, with how I feel right now. And so you want to and then also I would recommend studying mindfulness. Becoming mindful is a state of allowing your thoughts to pass by and realizing that mindfulness says you are not your thoughts. So as your thoughts are scurrying, you don't need to hold on to those and grab onto them, as your thoughts are you. You are not your thoughts. So let's sit with that for a moment. In other words, all that you've been thinking and worrying about, your job, am I going to still have a job, all these different things, don't hold on to those. Don't grab onto them. Allow them to flow past you, almost, like a wisp of a cloud flowing past you, or like leaves on a river. Just do not become attached to them. And it's a very, very powerful state for you to enter into, really for anyone who has encountered this. It's a very liberating experience, and you can also practice this. You might need to get some practice going, i.e. trying it a couple times. Again, that's the beauty of the information age right now. We have so many disciplines and tools that you can call forth from, that you can cultivate and nurture and develop within yourself, that can empower you. Because really it's all about being empowered, not being pulled in or sucked into the rage that the psychopath might have, because they have a tendency to do this projection and hyper-sexualize, or get that hyper-arousal going in the workplace, where they can sexualize everything. It can become a very fine line. And like a viewer said, well, that's what human resources is for. Well, it's very difficult for you to say, this boss is psychopathic or something. You got to be careful about that. But yes, you can document things that you feel make your environment unsafe, that you feel are not, cohesive with your corporate mission, that are not fair practices, where you have felt violated, or it's an unproductive work environment, a hostile work environment. As a viewer said, that's what human resources is for. So it's very important for you to understand your rights as a person, meaning, a hostile work environment where you feel threatened by either the behaviors or actions of other employees. So if you feel it's a hostile work environment, you need to document it, write down the date, what had occurred, and bring this to the attention of your human resources, because that is not permitted. Something that really distracts from the productivity. If there's a good, boss somewhere, they're going to want the best for you. They're going to want you to be able to focus, be highly productive, doing great at your job, being happy. A happy employee is a productive employee, and that is well-rounded for the business. So you've got, fair reciprocity. If you feel that there's no person to report to, I know that we also have some viewers who work in very small offices where they feel like their whole environment is laden with this, then I would advise you, you need to exit that organization. It is not in your best interest. Really, start putting your feelers out there, looking for a different job. If you find that whole industry is tainted with these types of people, go and get some experience with other areas where it's not laden with this personality type. I know that there's a lot of industries that attract the psychopathic more than the norm, and realize that the psychopathic is 4% of the population. It can be, but oftentimes these people tend to gravitate to the high power positions where they can be viewed as superior. They can take a lot of targets. They can exploit a lot of people and get away with it. As if their characteristics are desirable. CEO, the financial services, the music or acting industry are, more prone to this. Thomas Sheridan, who has written a great book that I would highly recommend, Puzzling People, he talks about his encounters with the psychopathic individuals of Wall Street. He was a graphic designer for many big banks and organizations and firms in the Wall Street area. And he talks about his encounters there. I would recommend his book as well, Puzzling People by Thomas Sheridan, and he goes into some experiences and how he had to move forward out of that. Eventually, as you learn, you will become impenetrable to this, but it becomes very uncomfortable. So begin to get really clear rock about it, beginning very transparent with yourself, being able to identify, because there's oftentimes you feel like you cannot think straight when you're around this type of tension. There's this charisma, or there's this kind of magnetic feeling that tends to emanate from these people. It's very difficult to articulate, but we're doing it now. And once you know it, you know it. So it's okay, but it is something you do want to deal with. And just, okay, this is what it is. This is what I'm going to do. Take some concrete steps. Don't put it off. Don't be terrified. Get clear and indifferent and neutral about it. Clear meaning I can see it transparently. I have rigorous honesty about with what I need to do. What are my next steps, my next 2 or 3 steps, not overwhelming yourself, but making sure you can get into a place, moving your desk or getting, away from it and not being pulled into the politics or the negative talk that can bring you down. Don't be afraid to separate yourself from the gang. If you feel there's a lot of people who are also, in that circle, don't be afraid to be an outsider, because it's not attractive to get sucked in. It might feel like you're lured in, but yet it is not an attractive place to be. Just like you might see a bar with all sorts of people dressed up, but yet there can be a lot of trouble brewing in there. It might be attractive. It might seem like that's where all the fun is, but where do we hear about all the drama? You want to begin to lessen the amount of drama, even though these people might perpetuate it as what's going on. Begin to get clear rock, clear in yourself, and ask yourself, being able to think more for yourself. Is that really attractive? Is that really where I want? Is that where I really want to be? And if it's okay to say no, but oftentimes it's that no answer which you've been pushing down because you want to be part of the belonging. It's a social, it's a social need to have a sense of belongingness. And if you can't have that, then you need to kind of pull back, get clear rock about it, and get a sense of belonging with your higher purpose, your values, and being able to dream and create and carve a way out for yourself, positive early direction thinking, taking those actual action steps and applying them. What else can I advise? The pattern interrupt. Being able to ask different questions that are a little bit, off the topic of the psychopath. So if they're asking you a question, you can answer with a slightly different reply, or answer with a question yourself. Ask, showing your footing and your power. So if they ask you a lot of questions, begin to ask, if you have to encounter, do not look them in the eyes. Begin to adjust your body a little bit differently. Focus on your deep breathing and becoming very neutral, very indifferent, and then asking them a question which is a little bit off pattern. So you engage in what they call a pattern interrupt. So you're slowly kind of breaking down their language structure, which oftentimes has a very different emotional vibration than what is the norm and humanity's sake, because they do not bond to people. They tend to try to overpower. And so I hope these tools do help. It's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here. Let me know how it goes. Much love to all the empowered harmonizers on your healing journey today.